Okay, first I'll tell you a little about my family. My wife's name was Pelican when I married her. My grandmother's name was Buzzard. So when we had a child, the first one was just sitting over there, we called him Robin. So my family was for the birds. Well, first, I'll tell you, this is one of the bad missions, and the first piece of flak come through the windshield. My pilot was Dean Lovett. He was a local man from Michigan here who wound up head of the ag department here in Michigan, and he was in Morstan quite a bit. And the reason he isn't here, in his basement in Lansing, he had a steep stairway, and he was doing horizontal experiments in his basement. Well, he did drink a little, as most of our pilots did, and he fell down his steps, which were steep, and broke his neck, and he died. And that's no way for a 50 mission pilot to pass away. So anyway, that's why he isn't here. Anyway, the piece of flak came through the air screen or windshield, whatever you want to call it, hit him on the parachute harness, which was heavy nylon, ricocheted off that, and I'm sitting over in the co-pilot seat, and it hit me in the butt. Well, now I know I'm hurt, but I didn't know how bad. Well, I shot myself as a boy in the hand, and it didn't hurt that bad. So big deal. And in fact, speaking of this, the newspaper commented on, after I shot myself, they said, "Good shooting, Wally, you got 4 out of 5. Well, anyway, so because he had glass in his eyes, well, I had to, as a co-pilot, I took over the controls and finished up. Finally, he's okay, and so the bombardier has come up from the nose, and he's seeing me looking here. He said, "What's the matter?" Oh, I said, "I think I'm hit." "Well, why is that?" "Well, what did I say?" I said, "Well, if blood smells like shit, I'm shot." So I'll comment on my last mission, which is a sad tale, but a happy tale, but it was very sad. The first thing that happened as we taxi out, now this was a milk run, and I don't know whether I would put on, our crew would put on it because it was our 50th, and they like to see somebody get through their mission, so they didn't send us to Vienna or crews to Vienna or some of those bad targets on their 50th. So anyway, this was just a little railroad bridge up in the Alps, which maybe they had a couple of guns, that's about all. Anyway, so the first plane out to taxi, guess, there was at the corner hard stand where we make our turn, final turn to go onto the runway, this crewman, who I don't know whether he was briefed or what, but all of us had flak suits, and it was a light piece of thing that if the flak was hit was not too hot, it would save your life. If it was real hot, why, it would have gone through. So, but you felt good about wearing it because it was a mental thing, and one more thing between you and upstairs. So anyway, this one gunner decides that if one flak suit is good, 2 or 3 is better. So he went back to the shack, where we picked up our equipment, our parachutes and flak suits, and he got a couple extra flak suits. Well, he almost made it back to his hard stand when at the bend of the taxiway, when the first ship out was taxiing. Well, normally the flight engineer, there was a hatch off of the flight deck, And he stood up there to make, because the nose here, can't see over the nose, attaching the people down here, so he stood up in the hatch here to make sure it was safe to attach. He, for some reason or another, he was down. So he didn't see this guy walking back with the flak suit, and he almost made it into his hard stand with the last propeller over here, hit him in the head and killed him, and that was his 50th mission. Oh. And what a shame, because there was no reason to have flak suit. So that was the start. Okay, so we go on, we fly the mission, and we come back. Now, this is a celebration. For those who finished 50, they let them buzz the field, shoot up all these various bits of the flares of most colors, and do that a couple times, and that's a big thing. And it's also heartwarming to the people on the ground that have missions to go, and they know that there's somebody who made it. Anyway, so we got a case of shells and a couple of pistols, and we're out over the Adriatic, which is about 30 miles from the field, and I was going to turn on final. Well, my pilot, first pilot, Dean Lovett, and the operation, our engineering officer, were up testing an airplane. So unbeknownst to him, to me, he's come up and tagged onto my wing. Well, here we're turning to go to get on the final, which was about 30 miles out, which was further. I wanted to be the last one down so we could do all this maneuvering. And I hear some engines roar. Well, I didn't touch the throttle. And so I look out, and here, this wing is going to take off my wing, their wing, because he was back here, and they weren't paying, they were talking and weren't paying any attention. And when they looked up and paid attention, their wing was going to chop my wing off. So he passed off like, well, I raised up my wing here, and it went under. Well, at 2,000 feet, nobody gets out. So that's, this is now a melt run, you know. The co-pilot said I was white as this paper. So instead of shooting all those flares, I was through. I was through. So I snuck in, landed real quiet, went back, got out, and kissed the ground, and walked away. And I'm sorry for the crew, because they had their hopes up of really celebrating, but I thought, here's my own man is going to get me here. That's how it wound up.